Hi everyone, I am with my friend Lisa. We're in Washington, D.C. A friend is hosting a dinner party tonight for me, and I invited Lisa to come along. I said, hey Lisa, haha, do you want to come to dinner with me in D.C. on Monday? And she's in Colorado where she lives, and she says yes. So she flew in last night, and we're about to head to my friend John's house for dinner, and I'm in town because tomorrow is an event with Governors Shapiro and Cox on political violence in our moment. So that's at the National Cathedral. So I came in to support that really important conversation happening tomorrow. But I wanted to invite everyone personally to this conversation, this online salon happening on Friday evening at 7:30 Eastern Time. It's called The Joy We Forgot. And this is with my friend Junius Johnson. I met him here in Washington, D.C. back in May. I spoke at the Redefining Classics conference that my friend Anika Prather put on. And that whole conference is about incorporating historically overlooked voices into the great conversation, and was thrilled to be a part of that. And my friend Junius and I had this lovely conversation. You may have read this piece I wrote several months ago called The War on Wonder. I think that was what it was called. And he said, I was telling him, we were talking about how we teach our kids about magic in the world. And really it was a conversation about mythos versus logos. Mythos is story. Logos is reason. And these are two different modes of exploring truth. They're two different tools to explore different facets of truth. And I had a really lovely conversation with him that stayed with me ever since, and I thought it was really important too. And I'll link to that article that I wrote about the war on whimsy, the war on wonder, the war on awe that we live in now in this era of certainty, where we think we know all the answers. And in a world of certainty, there's no room for awe, there's no room for wonder and the joy of being surprised. There's no room for imagination, which is what we need right now. We need to be able to imagine a world that is different from the one we're living in now. So what does it look like to exercise those imagination muscles? So anyway, I'm also thinking a lot about this balance between mythos and logos in my home with this question of what do we do about Santa Claus? So I'll tell you a story. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a bit of a virus. When I was younger, every year for Christmas, I would write a letter to Santa Claus, and I would ask for one thing. Take me, please, to the North Pole in your sleigh. I would like to wake up there. Just like Charlie in Tim Allen's The Santa Claus. That was my dream. I wanted to wake up in the North Pole, and in his sleigh at the North Pole. And every year, Santa would write back to me and have some sort of reason for why this was not the year for that North Pole rendezvous. And every year, I got madder and madder and a little bit more disillusioned until one year I gave Santa an ultimatum. I said, Santa, either you take me to the North Pole this year, either I wake up in your sleigh and at the North Pole, or I'm done believing in you. And lo and behold, I woke up that Christmas morning and I was right where I'd gone to bed at night. I was not, in fact, at the North Pole, and I was sad. I was disillusioned. And then I got a little smart, and I did a little bit of handwriting analysis and found that Santa had the same handwriting as the Tooth Fairy, and also the Easter Bunny, and also my father. And that was my parents are wonderful, and they raised us on stories and on wonder, but that was a disillusioning experience. And I thought a lot about that for when I had my own children. And I think I got a little too literal too early, because now with every single, and I told Percy that Santa didn't existed. Percy's my eldest, my 5-year-old. And Percy said to me, now he asks every single story, Mom, did this actually happen? No. Is it true? When we're reading The Hobbit, for example, he loves, it's his favorite book. We just read Tolkien's The Hobbit. And he said, is this true, Mom? And we were like, no, it's a story, And he's really eager to conflate mythos and logos. Mythos, those are stories that answer questions of origin, purpose, and destiny. And logos answer questions of truth, like matters of metaphysics and reality. In the ancient world, they didn't conflate mythos and logos. They didn't pause and ask, did Odysseus actually exist? Did Romulus and Remus actually exist? It was their origin story. It was how they, situated themselves in the world. And so I'm inviting you to come have this conversation with Junius and I on Friday evening. This conversation of mythos, logos. Maybe we'll even come away with a definitive answer to the question of how we should do Santa Claus. Lisa, I asked her how she did Santa Claus in her home, and she said she was kind of skeptical of it. Do you want to say anything about that?
Just, I felt like it was disingenuous.
Yeah, and I thought that too. I want my kids to know. This is why I veered on the side of logos with Percy early on. I want them to know that anything I say is true, and you can trust me at all times. But how do you also keep imagination and joy and wonder alive as well? And this is one thing I'll never forget that Junius said to me. He was telling me a story about his daughter in a time when she was disillusioned, and he was annoyed at the young girl who had disillusioned his daughter. And he tells his daughter, the world is a magical place. Like, there's so much we don't know about the world. He said to me, for example, we think that only 15% of animal living matter has been discovered, or something crazy like that. And the highest mountaintops, the valleys between mountains, the ocean floor, we know nothing about that. There's just space. We know nothing about anything. We think we're so smart and so evolved and so advanced. There's so much we don't know. How do we know that extraterrestrial life doesn't exist, that unicorns don't exist? My daughter would be thrilled to discover that unicorns exist. So I invite you to come into a conversation about mythos, logos, about awe, wonder, imagination, about humility. These are all things we need to live well, and especially to imagine a world better than the one we have now, which is what this project of Civic Renaissance is all about. So mark your calendars. Paid subscribers, come 30 minutes early. Junius and I have some special reading for you, and we can't wait to engage in an exclusive 30-minute Q&A and conversation with you. And then the public event will start at 7 p.m. Eastern on Friday. So thank you all for being here, and looking forward to seeing you Friday.